Kalimera. I will start in English because we have colleagues from EIT Health with us, and I want to welcome you to the fifth, sixth, I'm not even sure how, it's because it started since 2018, Morning Health Talks, where we will discuss the collaborations between hospitals and startups once more, but this time we're going to see real examples of actual collaborations that happened the previous years with EIT Health support and with the capacity building project SymbIASIS support. We have experts from EIT Health, from hospitals, clinics, renowned doctors, and also startups that have done or have already been involved in collaborations and have won awards. I'm George Megas from the National Documentation Center, and I'm welcoming you here. We'll wait like just 1 minute, and then we'll give the speech to Ms. Beata Cruz from EIT Health Innostar. She's the risk collaboration lead, and she's supporting us in all the organization of the Morning Health Talks. These talks were supposed to be closed among relevant stakeholders to initiate a discussion and create fruitful results or enhance the collaboration potential between those involved. So we have kept it focused and sent it only to specific, let's say, attendees relevant from hospitals and startups and other stakeholders. So without further ado, I will give the speech to Ms. Cruz, and then I will say a few words, and we'll go to our main speakers, and then in a panel manner, we'll all discuss, or if you want to have a PowerPoint, then it's also okay. So Beata, thank you for being here once more.
Thank you, George. Thank you for the invitation. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you this morning. George, I'd like to ask that shall I share my screen, or can you share it, as it is the better for us?
Oh, okay.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So it's my pleasure to be with you this morning, and I'd like to share very shortly with you what EIT Health is, and I'd like to highlight that Morning Health Talks, and in the frames of this event with the title of Startups Doing Pilots in Hospitals, this is a very crucial topic for EIT Health, because as we know as well that instead of collaborations between startups and healthcare providers, healthcare innovations cannot exist. So that is why the results of SymbIASIS project, as George mentioned, very important for us, and to facilitate collaborations between hospitals, healthcare providers, and startups. That is in the focus of EIT Health and our risk program. Very shortly, what EIT Health is, as you know, EIT Health is the community of the leading health innovator organizations in Europe, in the world as well. Just giving some examples, we have as members Siemens, Roche, for example, big universities like Oxford or Sorbonne, or other incubation organizations like TU Delft, for example, or Medical Valley. In the focus of EIT Health are startups, and within startups, we focus on early stage teams and early stage startups and how to support them to get into the markets. And getting into the markets, not in the local healthcare markets, but getting into the international and European level markets with their new products and services. This way, we provide for startups education programs, startup creation program, and business creation programs, and other innovation idea supports. In case of our business creation programs, we support a startup journey for the startups. That means that from the very zero level stages, like EIT has innovation days, through more and more mature level programs like Rich Innovation Call or InnoStars Awards, we provide startups programs to the most mature level, what is Attract to Invest program, and in this frame, so in the frame of Attract to Invest, we support investment for the startups for launching their markets, for launching with their products in the markets. On the other hand, we know that we cannot support in an effective way the startups if we do not have supporting programs for the local healthcare innovation ecosystems as well. And Morning Health Talks is an innovation ecosystem development project. The program of this Morning Health Talks, like this morning as well, to facilitate changing in the healthcare innovation ecosystems through discussions among you, so through discussions among the decision makers and stakeholders of the countries, and this way to start discussions among you and facilitate more collaborations among you in the countries, and finally this way to achieve changes in your country and in the local innovation ecosystems. We know that this is a long-term project, but we believe that finally we can achieve with you changes in your ecosystems. As another ecosystem development project, I have to mention you another call, that is the DRIVE program. In the frames of the DRIVE program, the goal is to create healthcare startups supporting programs in the countries, in the country levels. And for that, we provide a project call for the teams in the countries, which teams are open to start incubation and acceleration programs. And in the frames of DRIVE, we ask these teams to make tailor-made, country-level-made programs which support startups in the countries. This program and the project call is open in this moment as well, so you can make your application, or any other teams can make their application to this call as well. And last but not least, of course, I have to mention the SymbIASIS project. As I mentioned you in the first slide, connections between hospitals and startups are very important for us. So the results, the core statements, and other conclusions of SymbIASIS is very important for us. And we are very happy that in an ecosystem like the Greek Health Innovation Ecosystem, the National Documentation Center and George started this project, and we can study the challenges and the results of the collaboration between startups and hospitals with you. If you are interested in the projects and calls of EIT Health, please turn to our Greek hub and to George, because our Greek hub is our representation in your country. I'm here as well, and you can reach me out, of course, with your question or project interests. Thank you very much for your attention, and I give back the floor to the professional work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beata. Well, I'm going to give a short presentation of what we're doing here, and then I will give the speech to our guest speaker, Dr. Lieber from University of PEX. Just, I will try to be brief. So, I hope you can see my presentation. The National Documentation Center is active in a variety of sectors, mostly promoting research and innovation, especially from our department's job is that. And we are participating in a variety of networks, such as the Enterprise Europe Network. We're supporting companies meet and connect with other companies from abroad, and the Enterprise Europe Network is in more than 65 countries. We are Horizon Europe National Contact Points for Cluster 4 Digital Industry Space, Cluster 1 Health, Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, and the Cancer Mission. We are the EIT Health Hub since 2017, and now a newly digital innovation hub called Smart Attica. It's a network coordinated by Demokritos Research Center. We run the program Bridges, which has the goal to stop the brain drain and mitigate the brain drain and create a brain gain and connect the Greeks from abroad with Greeks here that are actually can support each other and bring some know-how back to the country. And we are the actual statistic authority, and we do the metrics for research and innovation in Greece on behalf of Eurostat and Elstat. Continuing, as I said, we are the EIT Health Hub for Greece since 2017. You saw before on the map that Beata showed the regional innovation hubs around Europe. And here you can see all the actual partners. We at EIT Health support startups, as you know, and we have supported more than 90 Greek startups. We promote the educational programs organized by the core members of EIT Health, and we have a lot of talent recruited there. We create the workshops and info days like this one, and we run now the SymbIASIS program. These are the startups that we have supported, and 23 have received funding already, and this adds up close to 1 million euros. It's small money, around 25 to 75,000 euros each of the startups, but it's something to start, and you receive also extra support from EIT Health. We have a variety of EIT Health also, as EIT Health, we have a variety of acceleration programs, startup support programs. We promote more than 15 or even 20 sometimes every year, but they are open till usually the mid of May. So most of them are closed now, the programs. We will be waiting in August or September for the Risk Innovation Call, where it asks you to connect with, if you're a startup, asks you to connect with a hospital or a university and submit a proposal to receive 25,000 euros each, which we're doing. We're going very successfully in this program. These are our results from 2021. 3 small consortia got funded from the Risk Innovation Call. And 2023, we have 2 consortia being funded by this very interesting program. Regarding the education programs, this is an example of the Risk Innovation, the Hello AI Risk program. It's a program that trains students or even employees about AI, employees or students of the health sector. And for 2022, 2021, and 2020, we were the first in recruitment. We had sent the most students on this summer bootcamp program, but that actually takes place remotely now. And it's now open for registration if any student wants to participate in this interesting program. So this shows that we have talent here in Greece, health professionals or students that want to learn about innovation and new technologies. We also organize the Innovation Days since 2018, and we are collaborating with the University of Thessaly for this. This is happening in around 35 places around Europe at the same time almost. The winners of each regional innovation days, for example, the Greek winners, the Italian, the Spanish winners, etc., are all competing in a final, a great final that last year occurred in Austria. And our team from the University of Thessaly that had won the first prize here in Greece with their solution called Warmly, won the Pan-European second place, which imagine the students from Lamia winning the second place and winning the competition against, I don't know, students from Karolinska or University of Barcelona. It's really impressive in my mind. Some of the previous morning health talks that we have organized, we have discussed about the DIGA framework that pays for digital health applications in Germany. Last year. It was quite interesting. And we are now running the SymbIASIS program. After our previous startup and hospital workshops, we saw the need to connect the startups with hospitals. We did also a survey, and then we collected for the first year around 8 hospitals and clinics, and now we have around 15 hospitals and clinics. You can see them all here. There are private and public hospitals and clinics. We collected their needs, and you can see here that we were asking them about their main digital technological focuses, their main clinical focuses, and what are their needs. In some cases, I see that I can tell that it is completed by the Chief Information Officer because I don't understand a lot of the lingo there. In other cases, it was filled from our doctors and our ambassadors that we have some of them here together, like Dr. Diagnose here. And so the results of SymbIASIS from last year were more than we were hoping. We were hoping for 4 pre-pilot programs. Actually, we had 17 collaborations between startups and hospitals. 4 were pilot programs. The problem there is that the startups are doing the pilots in the hospitals, but most of the startups are not getting paid. They're just taking the data back and they're calibrating their solutions. 4 business partnerships and 9 common participations in Horizon Europe programs. These are our startups from last year, and now we have 15 more for this year to be added. Some of also the portfolio startups that we are showcasing, and our startup Fosprint also was the first Greek winner of the EIC Accelerator program. And last year, we have here with us also shuttle catheters that after also participating in SymbIASIS and getting connected with Attikon Hospital, and let's say Dr. Diagnose, you'll hear more later, won the first place in the EIT Health InnoStars Awards. We had actually a lot of successful stories the last 2 years. And tomorrow I will be in Romania, and I will be presenting in their morning health talks. So you can also register if you want to on this one. Thank you, and sorry if it was longer than expected. Can you hear me? Okay, and now I want to give the speech to Dr. Noemi Lieber, who is the Deputy Director and Innovation Expert at the Institute of Transdisciplinary Discoveries at the Medical School of the University of Pécs, and the EIT Health Hub Coordinator for Hungary, for the Hungarian Hub, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
Hi,
this
Noemi.
is correct. Hi. So thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to present what our project is about, what we achieved so far, and what our plans are the future. So the aim was to increase the number of physicians who are open to innovation and new solutions, thus increasing the number of innovative projects coming out our clinics and the number of inquiries and projects from companies and startups. So the ultimate goal was to develop clinics that are more responsive to industry and real needs. And our landscape, University of Pécs Medical School has 29 clinics covering the whole spectrum of healthcare, but there are few innovative project developments or patents based on their own ideas and initiatives. Typically, doctors and nurses are involved in human clinical trials, mostly funded pharma companies. This is the university's largest source of income after tuition fees from foreign students, of course, but the health professionals already have a heavy workload. But in a university clinic, there is the added burden of teaching students in several languages and doing research and so on. Without that, they cannot move up the career leaders, so they have to do this. So obviously, there was a huge lack of motivation, and it was difficult to convince them and make them open-minded for innovation and join others' innovation projects. But we also suspected that there was a lack of information. They didn't know how to come up with an idea, how to get involved in someone else's project, who could help them at the university and so on. We also found a communication problem with organization of the clinics. Subordination both between individual clinics and between theoretical institutes and clinics as well. This is, of course, a major obstacle to the development and successful implementation of good projects. Therefore, when it comes to choosing a focus area to support the professional activities of the EIT Health Risk Hub in 2020 call, there was no question of choosing hospital engagement focus area. So what are our main blocks of our methodology or projects? We have some pilot clinics, but the main elements of the system, each of which has its own explanation in the later. So pilot clinics, why did we choose these clinics from the 29? Engage leaders, who do you get them interested? Champion network, what do they do? What do they get from us? Discovery team is a very new one project from us. Why and what exactly do they do for our goals and to the hospital engagement? Innovation expert, what is the role of our hub and its people? and industry partners, how and what stage can they involved. And of course, startups, recruitment strategy, action plan, national fundings. This is the required elements, I think. Pilot clinics and leaders. So at the start point 2020, we have just 3 pilot clinics, and we are expanding the next year in 2029 for 5 clinics. And from the last year, we have 6 pilot clinics. And from the last year, we focus on identifying challenges and solutions to care for people over 55, because the silver economy is another focus area of our hub. So now we have 6 clinics: dental and oral surgery clinic, oncology, rheumatology and immunology, internal medicine, which is care for nephrology and diabetology center, neurology clinic, and ophthalmology clinic. Engage leaders. As I had 8 years of experience and background in academic innovation at University of Page before joining to this institute, so I knew who would be open to this opportunity. We had a separate meeting with each of them and went through why this would be good for them. They were needed this because they wanted to improve the way their organization worked, to motivate their people and to get more involved in innovative initiatives. Of course, we needed them too, because without leadership commitment, our further plans couldn't have been realized. And we believed that if we achieve results in a small number of clinics, it would attract others and increase the number of clinics that would apply for this opportunity and program. Champion network, champion or that our word can be used, but they are our undercover agents at the clinics, and they appointed by their leaders in order to learn more about the problems and difficulties in our clinics and to get in touch with this community on a personal level. We asked some clinic managers or leaders to nominate a person from their colleagues who could help us. So exactly, we asked them, you appoint a young colleague who is already well established within the organization, but who is not yet burned with middle management responsibilities and who consider to have an open mind and ability to influence his or her environments and staffs. Mostly their role, participation, of course, in trainings and workshops, which is organized by us in the framework of EIT has grant, inform their colleagues and students in their work environment about the opportunities, EITS opportunities and our hubs, trainings and courses as well. Contribute to the opportunity for our institute staffs to present our activities and opportunities in personally at their institutional meeting or event, and sensitize the public to innovation and their colleagues, and of course active participation in development of written policy to promote and encourage innovation by clinicians. And what we do support with them, we have organized a series of workshops to raise their knowledge and skills. To be honest, COVID made life difficult because this program started in 2020. So, but we could only do almost everything online, but we didn't give up, and project, I think, was a success. Some themes from the workshops, presentation and analysis of the practical feasibility of international methodologies for motivating innovation, exactly in the health sector. How can they identify challenges and problems, and how can it be solved in a clinical setting and mindset? Factors affecting the success of innovative projects, what kind of roles in these projects, and so on. And their adaptation within their organization. At first, their colleagues were nervous about being asked about their problems and ideas, but slowly they become accepted it and can be open-minded, and came to them or to us with their questions and suggestions and ideas. Naturally, this increased their motivation, and they come up with more and more suggestions of their own, both for their own organization and for our innovation support activities, in order to give them the tools and knowledge they needed. And from 2021, we started a very new project. It was called Discovery Team. And the ideas come from Attila Schick, who is our leader, and she's a real inventor, I think, and a very open-minded person and very positive. So the basic idea was, by observing the daily routines currently operating in the pilot clinics, the challenges and difficulties that could be overcome to make care faster, simpler, and more efficient for both staff and patients, were identified. Do this and kind of research team of 10 people, independent and specialized field under study, was assembled with a completely mixed composition of humanities, arts, IT, sector, education, medical, and some PhD students as well. And the members of the group in pairs observed the processes in the clinics as a kind of outsiders, according to specific criteria. How we recruit them, we use our lecturer contacts at our faculties, and we had some posts on our social media profiles as well, and personal contacts and so on. What are their tasks? Participation in our online meetings, where the methodological and practical knowledge is acquired in order to smoothly implement the following tasks: to visit at least 2 of clinics designated by the ITD, and with a team member in order to get the daily life and operation of the clinic, documenting the experienced problems and challenges, in specific cases, proposing if they have solutions or formulating ideas. They can use our template for this way. Participation in the closing meeting for the preparation of the evaluation and implementation plan organized by us, by our institute. The methodology, they get a template from us, and they had to collect the perceived challenges and problems according to the aspects defined therein. And the champion colleagues have their work at the clinics, creating the opportunity to talk with patients, colleagues, managers, see the process management, and so on. And the end of the work, preparing and submitting a report to us, and we organize the closing meeting with them, discuss the conclusions, solutions, recommendations, and so on. And we have recruiting, and I think it was a successful program as well, because we have recruiting members of some of them willing to participate in the next steps or coming in the next year as well. So I think it's a very good one. What our main role in our staff role? The RISI discovery team reports were evaluated and further grouped and prioritization by us. And we used the methodology which provided to us by Israeli Center within the hosted project, with some modification and customization to our organization and clinics and at ByteSet and so on. Both the team members and our colleagues came up with suggestions for solutions to the identifying challenges, which we also included in the final evaluation. And the leaders received this report, summarized report, and then we discussed it with them personally, and we determined the next steps. We had a proposed procedure which was accepted. However, due to many organizational and personal changes occurring at our university, we have some challenges, of course, in the implementation, but we don't give up. The industrial partners, they could have some kind of role, idea validation. Could be useful if we receive the market feedback as soon as possible. It indicates whether we are going to the right direction or not. Implementation together, some of them are also open to thinking about a possible solution with our specialists and our staffs from the very beginning. Obviously, in this case, the legal and utilization issues needed to be clarified in time, I mean at the starting point. Joint application, grant application, of course, which can be opened for R&D project, EIT has National Funding Horizon, and so on. Buying their existing solution. If we found that they're an existing solution, why we develop another, maybe just try to modify our problems or challenges. And some cases, expert input can be useful at any stage of the project development as market and sales aspects for this project. And the last year we made a survey. The aim was to assess the clinicians' attitude towards innovation, innovative projects, and their development. Do they have motivation problems? If so, and so on. And we did it at all 6 pilot clinics with the help of champions, and there was a relatively good rate of occupancy. Main questions: did they participate in an innovation project? If they so, what way? If not, why not? What task would they like to take on? Which phase they think is the most difficult of the projects, where the project fails, and so on. I think the main results or conclusions from the survey: the level of awareness is not adequate regarding the possibilities and the actual process as well. There are still organizational problems in the clinics, the organization below and above. In the career planning, innovation activity still does not matter for them. Unfortunately, workload has not improved, and opportunities appear because we can find the people who are the important building blocks of the organization, innovation, and individual innovation project. But we have to organize the teams and kind of multidisciplinary teams. So in summary, at an organizational level, they don't clearly see why it would be worthwhile to get involved in such a project, to come up with their own ideas and the development with us proposals or join an EIT has opportunity. And we asked them separately about the startups, how open they are to cooperation with them. And the resistance to startups is quite high because this is mostly due to lack of information. And I think, or we think they don't see clearly the valuable levels of this kind of cooperation. The knowledge is just the big industrial partners and farmers. So we have some tasks in the future as well. And national grant is EIT KIK grant from Hungarian office, and want to create and establish and empowered from each KIK. So in the health field, some of the partners submitted the grant to a proposal, and the common goal of the partners is to create a closer relationship between startups and clinics with more developments and products of real market value. Okay, and this consortium have 3 universities and 3 industrial partners as well. And I think at the end of the project, we have a kind of methodology for the clinical validation of the ideas of the startups have been successful in the programs. Okay. There is just some success or some product development with kind of first of all, SymbIASIS grant funded the first steps in developing innovative ideas for hand development and rehabilitation devices at the conceptual level. And 3 conceptual models and prototypes have been completed, as you can see in the slide. And we go to the specialist, to the rheumatology and immunology clinic, and they choose the number ball because they thought this will be the right way to their patients, and very open-minded for testing it and for the further development steps as well. And in the last weeks, we found an industry partner for the development as well, and we tried to submit a common grant application as well. Informal organizational network, it's a kind of methodology which Barabansi Albert's name in the international market, but Attila, our leader, is trying to implement it at our faculty and some clinics as well. And another product development, it's kind of a healthcare device or healthcare application or combination of this, and we work with rheumatology, neurology, and ophthalmology clinic as well, and we hope that this solution can be helpful for the patients and physicians or doctors as well to see more clearly the pathway of the patients and what are the problems, what kind of cares or examination not exist and so on. So we try to make it, and we submit in an internal grant application for our faculty. So I think this was the last one. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very interesting, and I'm receiving some messages that we should expand SymbIASIS to connect with other hub regions like Hungary and do an interconnected program, Beata, for next year maybe. For those of us that our capacity building project focuses on startups and hospitals. So want to be quick, and I will ask Professor Adonis Liveratos from the Kapodistan University of Athens, scientific advisor of the Archimedes Center, which is our implementing partner at the SymbIASIS program and a partner for many years now, to give us a presentation about all the background of this, what we're trying to do about open innovation and all the new, let's say, how can I call it, discoveries, research behind it, and show us maybe to what we're missing or where to focus.
Hello, George. Hello, everyone. I want to talk to you about giving you, let's say, I wouldn't say theory, too hard, a bit methodology, and then some examples and the latest development in relation on how we collaborate. I start with a concept that started about 20 years ago, and this is the idea of open innovation. Open innovation actually, contrary to closed innovation, is the idea in closed innovation, everything is done. Imagine a big multinational company where everything is done within the company. So you have the ideas, some of the ideas advance to become a prototype, some of them a part of them will develop to a final product. However, with open innovation, you have a situation which is much more complicated, where you have actually ideas produced within a company that are sent out and brought to the market by another company, or you have things that were developed outside of a company that were brought in a company, and the company is actually bringing these ideas into life. So I will give you some examples of it. And of course, you have another way where two or more companies are co-creating a new product, which is what we call the coupled processes. Interestingly, more and more open innovation, the idea of open innovation is expanding not only in research and development, but throughout of the knowledge creating process from the idea to the market. So you have, as I mentioned earlier, 3 core open innovation processes. So the outside-in process, where you, for example, you're buying a patent by another company or an organization. A very famous example where you have AstraZeneca actually acquiring a patent of a drug developed by Oxford, and I'm talking about the vaccine. You have an inside-out process where you license a patent to another company. Very, very famous example is IBM, where you have a really vast number of patents that were actually not used in final products or services by IBM, and they were actually licensed to other companies. Not anymore, but a few years ago, only from licensing, selling patents, IBM had an income of about $1 billion. Have in mind, and we're talking here about patents that were not used directly by IBM products. And of course, you have the coupled processes, as I mentioned earlier. You have the co-development, co-creation in this process. So, despite the fact that we have more players, you have an increasing complexity. So the process from innovation becomes more complex and more fragmented. You have more actors and an increasing number of heterogeneous and interdependent actors. And despite that we have more complexity and more actors, the reaction times gets shorter. So the period from conceptualization of a new product or service to commercialization becomes shorter. So going into more practical terms, a startup could innovate, of course, always could innovate by doing R&D by itself. However, it could innovate with a number of different types of partners, like R&D service providers, like you have R&D service providers, of course, are university and research and laboratories or research center laboratories. You have complementary partners, and we'll see some of these examples where you have organizations like hospitals, for example, here where you have a complementary position in relation to the process from conceptualization to the market. You have customers, you have users, which are not necessarily the same as customers. I mean, a customer could be a hospital and a user could be the patient. So eventually we need to innovate by collaborating, eventually also from an early stage with users. Could be innovating with suppliers, competitors. So we're talking about competition here, communities, and we have it extensively in the health sector, where you have communities of people interacting because you have a community of people with a certain disease, for example. And the result of this collaboration could lead to what we call internal exploitation. We always see that from the point of view of the startup. Internal exploitation means that a startup is doing marketing and sales. It could be co-exploitation. So we're co-exploiting the results because for example, we have examples of a company collaborating in the United States, collaborating with one in Europe, and the US company is actually going to the market, to the US market, and with the same product, and the European company goes to the European market with the same product, or eventually it could result in external exploitation. Let's see the famous example of BioNTech and Pfizer, where actually Pfizer undertakes the responsibility of going into the market and doing distribution, sales, marketing, and promotion. So this is actually leading us to let's say, more alternatives. Why I'm saying that? Because most of the time, by definition, most people think that I have to do it all by myself. And I'm not saying that this is about, which is closed innovation. So I'm innovating by myself and I'm going to the market by myself. And I'm not saying that this is a bad solution, but what I'm implying here that there are more alternatives that we should consider. Let me give you an example. I choose, because we had a short time and because explanation would be easier, I choose a Spanish example out of the sector we're talking to in order to give some lessons to be learned. Leque is a very, very interesting example of an SME which is about to bankrupt, and they were specialized in general clinic product of latex and rubber. So they were actually white label goods for other brands. And they saw a market opportunity in using silicone to develop cookware products. So they were actually internationally the first one. We came out with this type of products that have some advantages for those cooking, either professionally or in our houses. So in order to innovate in that, because they had some know-how, but they could not innovate from end to end internally, they started a workshop with users. So meaning chefs, dietary experts, and the general public, on to see how people are using these tools. And then they start working closely with an industrial designer, which was outside of the company. And then they worked with a research institute specialized on gastronomy and nutrition. And then they created joint subsidiaries with other companies in going out to the market. So you see, we're not talking about here about one collaboration. We're talking about an open innovation journey here, where you have several players coming into the game, and not necessarily all of them leading to what we call internal exploitation. So why is open innovation different in startups compared to big companies? Because startups, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about pros and cons here, because startups tend to be more flexible, they're more reactive to market changes and have shorter decision-making processes. So for example, here, they can make this journey easier. They can overcome constraints. A big constraint for all startups is what we call liability of smallness or liability of newness. And it's actually the lack of resources, the lack of branding and time and money and skills that startups have. So complementing your work with others can overcome some of these constraints. And this also may lead to reduction of costs, shortening time, and reaching economies of scale and scope, and increasing above all access to market, which we've seen is the biggest challenge for startups. However, startups and SMEs have also difficulty in opening up because partnerships often with large players might be hard to manage. Retaining control over knowledge and technologies is not always possible, especially if you're partnering with large players. And they have fewer resources, and all decisions are centralized, most probably to the one person, which is the owner and the CEO of the company, and or the main owner of the company. So creating often a bottleneck. So during the last years, we have seen the combination of open innovation to open science. And we have created a new concept in 2022, which is increasing in popularity, which is open innovation in science. Open innovations in science replies that if we want to do R&D, we need from a very early stage start going out of our laboratory, of the silos of our laboratories, whether these laboratories are the university laboratories or the startup laboratories of the company laboratories, and start collaborating from a very early stage with different stakeholders, even regulators or hospitals or users of our medical device or whatever eventually comes up to the value chain of what we are planning to do. So 3 takeaways for startups. Open innovation, managing open innovation is very, very different than managing a company, because you're actually managing external partners. So you need a different skill set, because you're managing people and organization that you have much less control comparing to employees. And this does not only require a different skill set, but it also requires an open social attitude. I mean, we have seen that open innovation is more likely to happen successfully when you have people where they have good communication skills, and eventually they have also, we see people with good communication skills and often good professionally social media skills, for example, LinkedIn. An open innovation project like the one I described earlier is not an isolated and fragmented event. So it's more like a journey. So, and in fact, it's a learning-based journey. So collaborating with chefs, for example, leads you to a higher level of knowledge that you can use when you're working with your industrial designer, which leads you to a next level, which enables you to work better with a research institute, and which leads you to a better position when working with, for example, another company in order to co-exploit the results. And finally, we've often seen that starting from solving a problem and in turn, finding a problem worth solving is a recipe for success. Sometimes startups within their framework of their capabilities are asked to solve a specific problem, which is sometimes out of their everyday, what they're doing on a daily basis. However, solving a particular problem often leads them to come in to organizations and processes that they didn't know, they were not aware of. And so solving a particular problem often leads in finding that this particular problem that we're solving, or the one next to it, is a problem that many people or many organizations have. So this is a problem worth solving. And so from problem solving, you're going to problem finding, and then you're going to problem solving again. So this was it. Of course, I'm open to questions and to any discussion. I hope it was brief enough, George, and informative enough.
It was very informative. Thank you very much, Adonis. And if anyone wants to ask any questions, they can do it. Also, if any attendees want to be given the access to use their microphones, they can send a message on the chat. Adonis, that's why we try also to do the co-creation workshops, and we have already tried to include hospital startups, variety of clinics, and the ambassadors are chief information officers, doctors, also nurses, and we're trying to collaborate with the Patients Hub now, and we also included Roche Diagnostics Greece in the process to bring all the stakeholders as much as possible, but it gets difficult and out of hand sometimes. It
is. Now also you have, let's say, a theoretical basis, which is called Open Innovation in Science, which is an understanding. Interestingly, of what you're saying, open innovation started back in 2003 when the father of open innovation actually saw some best practices, and then he turned these best practices of like companies like Procter & Gamble into a theory or a methodology, and then it was much easier for many companies to adopt not the best practice but the methodology implied by Chesbrough. Now, most of the multinational companies, they say that they're doing open innovation. I mean, at least 8 or 9 out of 10, they say that they're doing open innovation, which is not niche anymore, but it's mainstream. And we see more and more SMEs entering into this field.
Thank you very much, and it's a subject that can take a lot of discussion. Maybe we can focus a workshop around it in the future again, and we're happy to have your support at the University of Athens, and you and Yannis and Vasilis supporting us on this great effort. And I don't want to take any more time. Thank you, Adonis. I want to go and see the obstacles and also the benefits of that the hospital can achieve and have if they collaborate with a startup, or if they focus on new technologies and innovative SMEs can be included in the process. And I would like to see this from the side of the hospitals first. And I will ask first Professor of Cardiology, Professor Vardas from Ygea Hospital, and also a professor at the Iraklion University and member of the European Cardiology Society, if I'm saying it correctly, a core member. And correct me, Professor Vardas, and the speech is yours, and tell us your experiences all these years in the sector, and what also Ygea, one of our core partners at SymbIASIS, what is its strategy, what is its culture, what are the barriers that the startups can find, and how to get over them and collaborate with you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Megas, for your kind invitation. Indeed, I have, let's say, a lengthy experience in 2 big hospitals. One of those was the University Hospital on Iraklion, at Iraklion Creta, and now I am, for the last 6 years, head of the heart sector at Ygea Hospitals Group. So, if I have understood well, the opportunity today is to present in brief few ideas regarding the startups' presence and functioning in big hospitals. And first, I would like to present in brief some of the considerations of a possible CEO working in a big hospital related to hiring startups technologies. So, please allow me to summarize my, let's say, concerns. The first one is possibly the reliability and the stability of the new technology coming in the hospital. As you know, startups are often young companies with rather limited track records and may not have established a reputation for reliability and stability. In this case, the CEO might be concerned about the potential risks associated with relying on a startup's technology to deliver critical healthcare services. This is a general feeling. It is a newcomer. So this newcomer should be trustful. Okay, and then is the scalability of the new startup company. Hospitals are large and complex organizations with diverse needs. The CEO might worry about the startup's ability to scale its technology to meet the demands of a big hospital. Because now we are talking about hospitals of 800 beds or something like this. And then a third concern could be, let's say, name it, integration challenge. Existing hospitals have a certain and are functioning based on a certain infrastructure and well-known systems. And in this case, the CEO might be concerned about the potential difficulties and costs associated with integrating the startup's technology into the hospital's existing IT ecosystem. And then a fourth area is the regulatory compliance. Healthcare, as you know, is a highly regulated area, domain, ecosystem. So, and similarly, the industry involved there and the technologies involved there are highly regulated. So, reasonably, the CEO might be concerned about whether the startup's technology meets all the necessary regulatory requirements and if it can help the hospital maintain compliance. Next, financial viability. Startups, especially those in the healthcare sector, often face financial challenges. It is well known that every year we have a number of thousands of new companies, startups growing up, but a significant percentage of these companies in a certain time, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, unfortunately are collapsed. So the financial viability of the newcomer should be a concern. And then is the data security and privacy. Hospitals deal with sensitive patient information and as such must ensure its confidentiality and security. The CEO might have concerns about the startup's ability to protect patients' data properly. And then is the cost and the effectiveness of the new product and the new technology. Is this new technology cost effective for me, the CEO? Last but not least is the training and support. Implementing new technologies requires proper training and ongoing support. So I try to some degree to summarize main concerns from the side of the CEO. Please allow me now to go to the other side and to express possible concerns from the startup facing the CEO and facing the challenge to enter to a big hospital. First concern possibly is the lengthy procurement processes. As we know, big hospitals often have complex and lengthy procurement processes involving multiple stakeholders, strict regulations, and extensive evaluations. So startups may be concerned about the time and resources required to navigate these processes. At this phase, I would like to carry out and to present to you what we face in Brussels. As you know, George, half of my time is shared here at the Aegean Hospital, but half of my time per week is shared in Brussels, where I am Chief Strategy Officer of the European Society of Cardiology. So a few years ago, we had a huge discussions at the European Parliament regarding the new regulations of medical technology and devices in general. And one of the main issues there was the problem of the pre or post-market evaluation of the new products in general. You see, it is very important and very, let's say, reasonable, any device, any product to be properly evaluated in a pre-market phase. But that means huge money to organize proper clinical trials. So it is highly possible this safe tactic to kill the innovation. Instead, a number of startups and small companies were very concerned about the pre-market evaluation. And most of those wanted post-market evaluation. Post-market evaluation means that the product has been developed, has been delivered, and then as the companies are getting more, let's say, stable, economically stable, they could have the opportunity to organize clinical trials and to examine the safety of the project. You understand? It's a huge dilemma. Similar here, the startups entering a hospital face not only the dilemmas and the concerns of a lengthy procurement processes, but also there is another reality, the limited resources for pilots and testing regarding these startups. Next, integration challenges. Hospitals typically have existing infrastructure, as I said before, systems and processes in place. So we need to see how much is, let's say, feasible and easy for the newcomers, startups, to be properly integrated in the existing reality. Regulatory compliance and security requirements, all the times, these regulatory requirements are faced by the startups a little bit, let's say, with interest and to some degree skepticism. And then another issue related to the startups is the funding and financial stability. Startups often require financial support to develop and scale their technology. And in many cases, hospitals are not so much, let's say, eager to support economically from the beginning, from the start, these projects and these products. Another issue is the intellectual property protection. Startups may have concerns about protecting their own intellectual property when collaborating with big hospitals. They may worry about potential intellectual property problems, unauthorized use or disclosure of their technology. And last but not least is the market access and adoption. While partnering with a big hospital can provide valuable validation and market access, startups may have concerns about the adoption and utilization of the technology. So, to make the whole story short, it's very important for a startup to get the opportunity to enter into a big hospital. At the same time, everyone working in the field could imagine the challenges the startup faces entering this very well and very demanding ecosystem, a big hospital. That's it.
Thank you very much, Professor Vardas. It was, whatever you said was spot on, and it was, I'd like the bullet where you presented everything, because it's easier for us to keep it in mind. And well, I agree with also all startups have faced these issues that you mentioned. Putting them down in, like that in a specific, let's say, line and row is making it easier for all of us to understand the issues. But despite the difficulties, and we have seen some collaborations within the hospitals. We have seen also, of course, hospitals like yours collaborating with big players like IBM and Watson Systems, but also I believe that there is an opening for smaller SMEs, innovative SMEs, to test their technologies, and if found scalable and protected enough to get through the whole procurement process, to actually be tested and included in the everyday use of the hospital. We hope on this, and I would like to keep the time at hand, and I'm thinking we have a question from Irene Schlosser for Mr. Vardas, and Irene, if you can be brief, I will give you the speech to ask the question. And then we'll move on to a startup that has already done a collaboration with Υγεία Hospital. Again, I will go to Dr. Avgerinos, and then to a startup that won EIT Health Innocence Awards with the support of Mr. Avgerinos also. And then again to Ms. Psiri, and then to the startup collaborating with them. That will be, in my mind, the best process to not only hear the doctors. If anyone else has an issue on that, you should tell me. And Irini, please give us your question.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you again for putting together this great panel. So just for quick context, I'm CEO of Diania Health, and we use natural language processing to find patient characteristics that would qualify for clinical research studies. We are based both in Athens and in the US, and primarily have worked up until now with hospitals and healthcare systems in the US. So large academic medical centers who are heavily running clinical research. My question is around specifically the shift, at least in the US and in many other countries, from relying on big technology companies like the IBM Watson Health and others into startups. Particularly, I think the majority of the industry, at least in the US, learned a lot from having worked with IBM Watson Health, which, by the way, it had closed down in the US because the technology was not where it is today. And so we had a shift from healthcare systems at first saying, yes, we want, the stability and the logo of a Microsoft or an IBM. And now they say, we want the best technology available. And also we want it with a company that is fit for purpose to do exactly and only what they're doing for us, not, advertising to billions of people, building software for every other solution possible. And so, for example, with Google and Project Nightingale, they launched 21 million patient lives at Ascension Healthcare System and had a whistleblower post 6 hours later that they were taking personal information of patients. So I think the example of big technology as being the trusted solution has already started to fade out. But where the innovation can fit is when the healthcare systems have a team that can examine and understand truly whether the technology is working or not. So I'm curious how you are approaching due diligence on these innovations, and if you have a team that's supporting the ability to truly understand what the technology does versus rely on a big name. So is there a strategy with the healthcare systems around being able to truly understand what is innovation and what works versus what doesn't and how it will scale? Or is the system not at that place yet?
Okay, so you're talking about Greece, indeed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So to my knowledge, at the moment, in the whole public sector, which is really about 75 to 80% of the whole totality here in Greece, there is not any special, let's say, dedicated group in each hospital deal with innovation as a main task, not at all. Mostly, innovation is monitored by the, especially the university hospitals or big non-university hospitals, is the innovation in each domain, in each field, is to some degree monitored by the directors of the clinics, or if possible by few members of each clinic. But this is not such well established. You can imagine in one, for example, myself, I have a certain interest to monitor the dramatically increasing developments, correct? Because we have to accept that what is happening now is a cataclysmic, fast
evolution of the
increase of new products, new ideas, new technologies. No, but even in the private sector, even in the hospital where I am, in the group of the hospitals where I am, in my opinion, there is not any dedicated task force met regularly to discuss in depth evolving realities. No doubt, there are persons quite charismatic and quite dedicated who are looking to follow up the developments. No doubt, and there is also something else. Reasonably, the situation between countries like United States, France, UK, and countries of the periphery like Greece, the whole situation is a little bit different, because startups developed in the United States or in the UK, for example, or in France, to some degree represent, in my humble understanding, a little bit more, let's say, more sizable entities. Okay, if you have something developed in Silicon Valley or in Massachusetts, that means that possibly behind this startup, it's about 20 or 30 million euros. In Greece, although the whole spirit, the whole atmosphere is fast evolving and fast improving, the venture capital behind these startups is rather smaller, correct?
Sure, yes.
So to some degree, you have to remember that countries like Greece, like Portugal, like even Denmark, why not, are rather consumers than the leaders. Okay, no doubt, Denmark is the leader of innovation in Europe, but still, I'm not sure that if the hospitals in Denmark are not consumers of innovative products coming from the United States and UK and France than to be producers.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, to be completely honest, the healthcare systems in the US are very few that have the innovation capability. Like we're talking about Cleveland Clinic that has a dedicated computing team and others of the sort. But in general, the IT departments are not, you know, the world's most fantastic engineers that have experience and publications doing AI deployments. So they just don't have the resources. But that does mean that it's an opportunity even for, you know, smaller clinics in the peripheral, as you mentioned, like in Greece, where even just having 2 or 3 people that are very knowledgeable within the AI space and can gauge on your side what is true innovation and how it can scale, it can help the startups so that we don't have to do as much education And, there's a little bit of a more trust on both sides because we don't have to explain how the AI works as much.
Thank you for your question. If any other of the representatives of the hospitals wants to add something to this, they can, or else we can move to company BioAssist and Mr. Christos Panagopoulos to give us their opinion about their collaborations with big hospitals and what will be their needs in the future and how we can support them even further.
Hello from me, and also thank you very much for the invitation to participate in this talk. So I will try to keep it short. Just a few words about the company. We are a company that develops digital health solutions, mainly focusing on home care and assistive technologies. We provide telemedicine and telecare services, and we also utilize wearables and medical sensors, and also enhance our services with data analytics and other more advanced features that we develop also in the context of our participation in several research projects. Our main product, the BioAssist platform, is a solution that provides healthcare organizations with the infrastructure to support remote care for patients. That includes teleconsultations and communication between patients and doctors, collection of data through devices, a central personal health record for each patient, and also some features that automate administrative tasks to enhance efficiency. So I would like to talk about the two success stories. The way we view success stories is collaborations that at this point seem to be moving on to a long-term partnership, regardless of the business status at this moment from the business perspective. So the first collaboration is with Gia Hospital, which was the main goal was to provide our platform. Which is a white label solution. So provide our platform under the branding of Gia to support remote care services. This would include, for example, home care, but it would also imply integration with other services and both digital tools and existing business processes. The target group would be patients with chronic diseases, but as well patients who would need the support after hospitalization. And the first use cases that we were discussing were home care use case and post-discharge monitoring, where patients would be able to use the platform to communicate with doctors and share their medical data, and also the utilization of Internet of Medical Health devices, of medical things devices would allow for continuous monitoring and more comprehensive support for patients. So I would like to go through some of the challenges that we faced within this collaboration. The first thing was the engagement of stakeholders, mainly the actual employees involved in the implementation of the pilot. And this is because while in the case of private hospitals, we often think that resources is not such a big problem as in the case of public hospitals. Resources doesn't necessarily mean only financial resources, but it also means time and prioritization. And when adopting a new digital solution, if employees have to, let's say, learn how to use a new system and invest some time into that, it doesn't always make sense for them if it is going to be replaced later on. So you need to have some kind of assurance towards the people involved that this is a solution that is there to be maintained. A huge obstacle is the integration with the existing technological infrastructure, but also existing processes. And in hospitals such as a year where there is already innovation and technology implementation, you have to compete with existing solutions and try to figure out how to best integrate with them, both from a technical perspective, but also from the perspective of business logic. So how, let's say, a patient will access their health records, how many apps will they be using, how many databases there are, and so on. And usually there are, let's say, big players like, for example, IBM that was mentioned earlier there, where it's not as easy for them to modify their solutions. And this is a very big challenge, not just for the startup, but also for the hospital. In our case in particular, we provide a solution that provides horizontal services, let's say. They're more generic. It's not as in the case of a deep tech, for example, solution, or an advanced AI solution where it is clear how you can measure the value. It is more difficult in our case because the solution ideally needs to be adopted by the entirety of the hospital, of the organization, by all departments, and it takes some time to see the value. There are competing solutions that do not work in the same manner, but promise similar results. So it's difficult for the administration to select a single tool that will be appropriate. So that means that we need to provide some kind of additional value to be more persuasive, and we need to have complementary services that will provide to the hospital more value if they adopt our solution. The two solutions that we tried to implement here was to implement the pilot we had in mind in the context of an EU project. So we submitted some joint proposals for EU projects, and one of the key outcomes is that we are now have now joined the MedSecurance project, which focuses on security aspects of, and we are in collaboration with the Year Hospital, will be implementing one of the main use cases of the project. And the second was to expand our portfolio of services. For this reason, we joined the EDEN network, which is aims to allow hospitals and other, let's say, owners of health data to exploit them for research or business purposes. It creates a common framework for this data so that they can be used across organizations or cross-border. And we are a certified SME that can help a health organization to transform their data model into the EDEN model. The second case I would like to talk about is not from a hospital that is in SymbIASIS, but we have applied some of the lessons that we learned during the course of SymbIASIS, and this has led to some success. So it is also a hospital from the public sector, so I think this gives maybe the opposite perspective. In this context, we have collaboration with the General University Hospital of Heraklion in Crete, and specifically with the Department of Endocrinology. The goal is to provide a platform for remote patient monitoring use case. And besides the features that I mentioned before, we had the task to implement some features for care plan monitoring and for nutrition monitoring, because the main target audience here were people with diabetes, starting with gestational diabetes, meaning pregnant women with diabetic symptoms. The goal was to provide some remote patient monitoring and care plan management for women during their pregnancy, and also add later some gamification features. So the main challenges here were a little bit different. Since we needed to design some new features, the main task was how to do this in an effective manner. We need to involve certainly the clinicians in the process, but at the same time, usually clinicians come with an idea of what they would like the end product to be able to do, but sometimes this is not from technical point of view feasible or the best solution, or you have an alternative solution and you need to be convincing of alternative proposals that you have to offer, or of additional services and their value. also, there's the challenge of technology acceptance here. The need is evident for innovation there, but the end users and mainly the patients, their acceptance is not guaranteed. So to ensure that we would be able to face these challenges, we began with the niche use case that I mentioned before, because monitoring women during pregnancy is, let's say, is a finite use case. After pregnancy, the patients exit the program. So we have a very specific time period for monitoring, and we were able to set up a plan to involve clinicians in the design of new features and also involve them in the testing process, and have an incremental development of the new features and a paced rollout, so that before we roll out a new feature, it has been thoroughly tested. And if this is indeed not the best solution, we have a proof of that before. This process also, I would say, educates the clinicians in how these new features are developed. So the next features that are described, they are described in a more thoughtful manner. The results of this process in terms of user acceptance were impressive. So at this point, we have already started the expansion to more use cases and features. We have started adding gamification elements such as badges and achievements and so on for users, and seeing how they can be valuable to promote patient adherence and so on. The hospital has proposed a renewal of the collaboration for at least 3 years. This was a great result because this collaboration has been in the works for relatively a short time now. It's 6 months. And also, a key result was that the hospital is going to drive the efforts to achieve funding from now on, which is, this has never happened before in our experience. We haven't had a hospital that was so willing to adopt our solution that they were going to drive the efforts for funding. I hope I didn't take too much of your time. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Mr. Megas, may I have a question here, please?
Yes, yes.
Great.
Yes.
So I heard with high interest what Dr. Panagopoulos said. Could I ask you, please, as you are collaborated with University Hospital of Heraklion, which I spent 35 years consecutively, who is the department that you collaborate with those? And here at the GEA Hospital, this is my first question. And second is, do you monitor these diabetes mellitus patients with sensors developed by you, or you hire technology from abroad?
Okay, so with University Hospital, we are in collaboration with the endocrinology department.
In Creta.
Yes, yes.
And here at the GEA?
With the IT department, with Mr. Pavachristou.
I mean, because as I am at the GEA Hospital, and I am very keen to follow up such nice developments, who is the person that is looking about the day-by-day results of patients, etc.? Which department at GEA Hospital?
Well, the use case is now under development because the European project that I mentioned started in January. So we're in the process of requirement elicitation, but we are collaborating with the IT department mainly, and then the involved doctors. I'm not sure yet who they will be.
So, the IT department is the facilitator in this project. Okay, exactly. And what about the sensors you're using?
We do not manufacture sensors. We use sensors off the market, and our main goal is to implement, let's say, a bring your own device solution. So our platform is compatible with most medical and wearable devices on the market. We expand the list as soon as new models come to market. And we also have integration over the cloud with most manufacturers of wearable devices. So if, for example, we can't get the measurements directly from a device, we can get them over cloud.
Thank you. I would ask now for Director of the Chair of Internal Medicine at the Attikon Second Pathology Unit, the Oncological Clinic, Dr. Psiri, to take the speech. If Professor Avgerinos is okay and can stay like 5 minutes because he has
Absolutely,
to leave at.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Dr. Psiri, please give us your experience on the matter of innovation in hospitals, and of course, we've seen so many developments in the issue in oncology, and I think it will be a huge testbed for new innovations in the future. Mm-hmm. The speech is yours.
Yes, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss my collaboration with Cure Cancer and my favorite colleague, Professor Ourania Nicolaou. So I will give you a brief presentation about the importance of patient-related outcomes in oncology. And then Ourania will show the application, the Cure Cancer application, and you know, we will present to the panel our collaborations. In oncology, patient-reported outcomes are very important. Measures of clinical effectiveness reflect outcomes that are important to patients, including symptoms, mortality, or morbidity. However, many times a tumor can be identified by someone other than the patient. So what is in oncology, our primary goal is to cure patients, but oftentimes patients present with advanced disease, and cure is not a reachable target. So in this situation, we try to, you know, to prolong life expectancy, but on the other hand, quality of life becomes very important. In addition, in many tumor types, you know, we cure patients, but treatment may substantially affect the quality of life. Furthermore, you know, as physicians, we can assess the quality of care of patients and toxicity, but patients' perception about their symptoms and quality of life is very important. So physicians' perceptions about patients' quality of life is different than you know, the patient's own perception. So over the past decade, patients' perception of well-being, the so-called you know, patient-related outcomes have become very important, the so-called PROs. So the European Medicines Agency and our European Society of Medical Oncology and American Society of Clinical Oncology put emphasis on PROs and the tools that we should use to measure and collect data on PROs. PROs are important because they provide the patient perspective on disease treatment. This might not be captured by a clinical measurement, but may be as important to the patient and the adherence to the treatment as a clinical measurement. So unlike standard clinical outcomes, for example, response to treatment or survival, PROs give us unique insights into how a therapy can affect the patient. So individuals with the exact same health status, diagnosis, or disease may have different perceptions about how they feel and function. The ability to measure well-being as an outcome becomes especially important in clinical situations where the primary goal of treatment is patient well-being rather than prolonging life or reducing disease events. For example, patients diagnosed with a chronic disease such as cancer that is not immediately life-threatening may be most concerned with their emotional state and their ability to live a full life. A patient with a terminal illness may be more concerned with their level of comfort, their ability to live longer, and the impact of the illness on loved ones. So PROs must be carefully defined so that they capture information that is important to patients. This information must be measured accurately and as much as possible in a way that makes it comparable with other measurements. Poor development of concepts will result in the measurement of outcomes that are not important to patients, however accurately measured. So measurement methods are important to identify an outcome that is important to patients. So we need to define the algorithm or what to measure, what is important for a patient. PROs is a concept. The object of measurement includes a symptom or group of symptoms, effects on a particular function or group of functions, or a group of symptoms or functions shown to measure the severity of a health condition. So the need for patients to identify and develop concepts themselves has become increasingly recognized. So health-related quality of life includes measurements of physical function, social function, emotional function, vitality, psychological function, role function, well-being, health status, among others. Major concepts measured in PROs include patient satisfaction endpoints, such as evaluation of treatment, patient preference, healthcare delivery systems and professionals, patient education programs, and medical devices. Physical functioning is also included in PRO algorithms, including walking, mobility, sleep, self-care, sex, and disability. Psychological state and is also very important. The sense of well-being, anger, coping with the disease, signs and symptoms such as energy, fatigue, nausea, irritability, social functioning, limitations in work, school, participation in community, treatment adherence, report on or observation of actual use of treatments. So how we interpret PROs? Measurement methodology is very important. Factors that contribute to an accurate measurement include the following: how the questions are delivered to patients, when the questions are delivered to patients, how answers are recorded, and how the data is interpreted. PROs are completed by patients themselves or by the patient in the presence of the researcher, or completed by the researcher through face-to-face interview or by telephone interview. There are certain strengths and weaknesses to the different approaches to collecting the information. It has been shown that trained interviewers reduce errors and ensure that surveys are completed. However, there are certain positive aspects on the surveys completed by patients without the presence of a researcher or another person present, because they may be more reliable, or a patient might be embarrassed to answer questions such as sexual function and other outcomes that are important in the completion of the questionnaire. So there are applications that are used to measure PROs, and there are clinical trials in major congresses that present research using application tools to assess PROs. Recently, a randomized control trial to evaluate the effect of a digital patient-reported outcome monitoring in metastatic breast cancer patients was initiated. And, you know, these are one of our interests as an oncology clinic. And, you know, Professor Urania Galitis, her daughter, in fact, has developed an application, a tool called Cure Cancer. And we collaborate with her, with her startup to, you know, use this tool in our patients and to design a trial to evaluate the utility of this Cure Cancer application tool. Urania is a prominent professor with international recognition in the field of supportive care in cancer and oral oncology. You know, I will pass, you know, the microphone to her to present Cure Cancer.
So thank you, Dr. Psiri, and we would like also to come back to you with some questions about how this collaboration with Cure Cancer is going to go in the future. If the results are positive, are you going to integrate them in the hospital? But then, if you can stay a bit, we can discuss this after Professor Avgerinos' input. So the speech to you, Professor Avgerinos.
Thank you, Mr. Megas. I'm gonna be quick actually, and I'm gonna also share the physician's perspective or the hospital's perspective, and then startups can discuss their perspective. So a year ago, I would never imagine that I would be here today discussing our success story. And I really need to thank EIT and the National Documentation Center, and particularly you, Mr. Megas, for being very supportive and helping this materialize. Let me introduce you to our medical startup, Shuttle Catheters, and I say our because I'm now part of their team, wearing my medical hat on one side and my startup hat on the other side. I really met them a year ago when you initiated this, let's say, speed dating with SymbIASIS and brought the medical startups together with physicians. And just to briefly tell you what this technology is and not really get into technical details, it's a balloon-supported catheter differentiating its position in the market by providing solutions in unmet needs of vascular interventions. For example, you can use like 2 balloons to seal a leaking, bleeding aneurysm, or you can use this balloon to anchor better your catheter to cross blockages inside the vessels. So when I got introduced to the company, they had like the idea, they had the prototype, but they lacked physician validation, they lacked physician network, they lacked physician training and clinical experimentation and the ability to design a trial. And I recently read this very nice article actually on the internet on the 6 doctors that every medical startup needs to succeed. You need somebody to define the problem, somebody to define the solution, somebody to develop the technical innovation, somebody to develop the clinical solution, somebody to validate this clinical innovation, and somebody to launch the product. And I feel this is where I got in. I'm the one who's going to take it from the development of the technical solution that already exists to help validate this clinical innovation and help launch this product. Now, up to, let's say, before SymbIASIS existed or happened, the way for medical startups to connect with hospitals would be through medical conferences and industry events, through online communities, forums, and social media, mainly LinkedIn. But what really made a difference now is the National Documentation Center giving us this opportunity to speed date with all the medical startups. And I was appointed by the chief of the Department of Vascular Surgery, Professor Geroulakos. I was appointed as the ambassador of the Vascular Surgery Department. And I would never really expect that I would find a startup being specifically specialized on vascular diseases and endovascular management of these diseases. So my background and what made it fit with this innovation is that I'm a vascular surgeon. I have training abroad, active experience in research, startup experience, and an international networking. And this is what I do. And the reason I appreciate as a physician connecting with startups, and this is for all startuppers to hear, is I like getting access to innovation and technology and solutions that far ahead our time. I'm excited being part of an invention, and I like exploring new technologies as it leads to better patient care and eventually outcomes. So here is where we matched in our date. They wanted the physician validation. I was the vascular surgeon they have been looking for. They wanted physician network, and I could provide this international network. I was active in research, and thus I can help them to build a clinical experiment and proceed with trial design. And this is like our timeline. After we met in July 2022, September 2022, we signed a collaboration agreement, and we decided to move forward. We organized a webinar with key opinion leaders in vascular surgery, interventional radiology, surgery, gastroenterology, trying to find the niche of this new innovation. And we concluded that this niche is going to be on peripheral arterial disease, how to better cross the blockages inside the arteries. Fast forward April 2023, we have the prototype, we have the catheter ready, and we are running our first in vitro experiment. That's this season. We were very excited to do it last month, and we actually were happy to realize that this catheter works. And we are ready now to move on our animal experiments and validation by more key opinion leaders in the field. Now, from my perspective, what I appreciate on a medical startup and what I appreciated on shuttle catheters was their clinical relevance, the ease of use, the potential to be cost effective, and definitely the background of the team members. There is a structure, there is substance, and there is science, but there is also a company around them. Shuttle Catheters is a venture led by Michalis Boutaris and built by Afroa Innovations, backed from private investors and the European Investment Fund. Afroa has focused or has been focusing for the past several years on medtech. So this gave me the credibility that I was looking in collaborating with a medical startup. So I'm really happy to realize that there are 17 more partnerships coming out of this program. And with that, I just want you to introduce you now to the entire team. These are the people that have been working for the past year, and I'm looking forward to see it grow further. With that, I want to thank you for your attention, and I'm getting back to you, Mr. Megas.
Thank you very much, Professor Vierinos. This was impressive. I mean, we didn't even expect that those collaborations will happen when we started SymbIASIS, because it was just me and another colleague, and under the mandate of EIT Health and the support, of course, we designed the whole program. We had some support from Yes Delft on how to implement it, but it was really new ideas that were never tested here in Greece. And we are now trying again this year to add more startups, include more hospitals, and have incentives for the ambassadors, doctors, other clinicians, and nurses. And this include from showcasing you in some campaigns online and showing your interest and your work, or allowing the most active of you to come with us in study visits abroad. Of course, expenses paid and the rest, but we'll see how this will go. And I really want to go to I will leave, let's say, our biggest success story, which is shuttle catheters and Afroa for the closing. And I will go back to, as promised, to Dr. Galitis to talk to us about the connection with the oncological department of the second pathology and internal medicine clinic. Dr. Galitis, the floor is yours to talk to us about how the connection happened, and of course, tell us how you can bring us so many hospitals. It's like you're working for us at EKT lately.
Thank you very much. First, I really need to say that we are touched by the help and support of Professor Psiri. He's a renowned, famous international expert who is honored for Greece. And we thank you very much. Many thanks to the colleagues of Cure Cancer, and many thanks Professor Dr. Megas for this honorable invitation. Cure Cancer is a patient-centric, patient-driven platform, serves as a referral center for people with cancer experience, and provides specialized holistic support to supportive cancer care. Being diagnosed with cancer feels like, as we all probably know, a death sentence. It has toxicity, side effects of cancer therapy. It is unpredictable and with a constant fear for recurrence, and these expensive costs are terrifying. An accurate health policy is needed to help these problems. Dr. Dimitra Galiti, my daughter, and myself inspired Cure Cancer to address some of these problems. We use real-world data reported and recorded by the patients. This data can increase the accuracy of cancer health policy, and this is the innovation of Cure Cancer. Back in 1999, I had succeeded 48 million drachmas by the General Secretariat of Research and Technology to develop a supportive care cancer program, section oral health. And the collaboration and connection of cancer hospital was established at that time and continued. And I could say that Cure Cancer was the evolution and the next step after the GSRT program, always with support of Professor Psiri. At Cure Cancer, people with a cancer history report and record their therapies and symptoms. You can communicate with a physician from far within the medicine and find healthcare professionals that they need to manage their toxicities and healthcare products. 2 years ago, the feasibility project we had with the Hellenic Society of Medical Oncology showed that patients know their disease, their therapies and needs throughout their cancer journey. And SymbIASIS, connecting hospitals with startups, gave us the opportunity to serve hospitals offering patient-reported data real world. We have prepared a dynamic tool, which is the questionnaire, to serve our collaboration with hospitals. We provide the hospital anonymized data reported by cancer patients in aggregates and in real world. Data questions have been designed according to the relevant literature. And these data refer to demographics, social data, economics, work data, type of cancer, cancer therapies, comorbidities, and medications, all these provided by the patients themselves and recorded by themselves, and cost of cancer, response, recurrence, metastasis, toxicities, therapy interruptions, hospital emergency visits, all with exactly with appropriate questions. I have to say that in a recent study, socio-demographic and clinical patient characteristics are of basic importance for a fast initial assessment of effective supportive management plan. This data can modify a clinical trial and affect therapy compliance and the response to treatment, and are important in the strategic planning for an accurate health policy. At SymbIASIS, we have connected and work with at the hospital, where we already have results from that, and very recently started with Soteria Hospital. 2 other hospitals, Genimatas and the Hospital Larissa, are almost at the end of preparing their documents, and 2 more hospitals have decided to and started preparing their documents, the General Hospital, Military Hospital of Athens, and the Hippocratic. The completion of the questionnaire that we prepared is easy. Patients, I would say, that are enthusiastic. We assessed them fast, only 51 responses, and they spoke very highly of this care by the hospital. And from 98 patients that we had passed the exam, 80% completed the questionnaire. 5 patients did not complete because they didn't speak Greek, and 7 patients did not want or they were sick during the chemotherapy. All these patients were under chemotherapy during the time of chemotherapy. Their comments, I say that almost 45%, or 45 of the 50 questionnaires, will have the same wording. Targeted questions, meaningful, easy to complete and useful, not tiring at all, fast, very helpful. One person said, I learned so much from this questionnaire. And one that was touching to me said that, well, comply, a very kind complaint, you didn't ask me anything about my physical condition, my psychological condition. We'll correct that. Advantage of this questionnaire are also, it is dynamic, it can adjust and change to the needs of each hospital. It can function in large and small hospitals. It can modify at any time to include additional questions, for example, to address a patient with a specific cancer type and particular therapy, adding a quality of life questionnaire. Patients can complete the questionnaire at different time intervals to assess changes during the course of cancer. And how to guide, how we managed it. Cure Cancer was based on the good knowledge of the cancer arena of supportive care through the GSRT program 20 years ago and continue after that. Continuation further enhanced the collaboration and knowledge in connection with cancer hospitals, and are advised to study and know at a reasonable level the area or the problem of the hospital that we want to solve or help. Financial support is our major problem to overcome. And we really want to express our highest gratitude to SymbIASIS program for giving us this opportunity, for Mr. George Megas, Archimedes Cancer Center of University. We are obliged and express our immense thank you to Professor Amanda Psiri, who was the first to help and trust Cure Cancer and open the door to her clinic for us to get in and work our pilot. We highly acknowledge all the hospitals that have been connected with Cure Cancer, and a big thank you to all who are with us today. We are really dedicated, we're enthusiastic as the patients, and we want to proceed any matter what. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Galitis, and we're welcoming Dr. Psiri to SymbIASIS since they're starting to collaborate even closer this year, 2023. And I hope, Dr. Psiri, that you're going to see also other startups and support them. There's no need to directly have a collaboration like you have with Dr. Galitis, but any kind of guidance and support and support on their development of their business models is welcome.
Yes.
We have some oncological related startups that you're going to meet for the next year, because now they're registering and they're completing the questionnaires of their needs, and we're going to send them to you.
Yes, I am in touch also with NetAb.io, biobanking. We are going to apply for a grant. Perfect,
perfect. Those companies are also participating in SymbIASIS. And again, thanks to Dr. Galitis, who actually brought us, connected us with a variety of other clinics as well, and mostly with your clinic. Dr. Galitis is also an ambassador and a startupper, has a dual use for our program. And last but not least, I have to go to our biggest success story of last year, because they were very active and received and actually utilized SymbIASIS in the most fruitful way, but also won InnoStars Awards, the prestigious EIT Health competition. And I'll go to the CEO and CTO of Shuttle Catheters and Athroa, Mr. Naiman Olesu and Mr. Boutaris. You can take the speech as you like, and you can divide the time between you. Sorry for having you in the end of the talk, but there were some pressing other issues on time.
No problem at all. And it's a great pleasure. Great honor to participate.
You can tell us your experience, and you can start however you like. It's going to be a free discussion. We're really happy to see that you went to a journey that actually continues a lot, as we saw from the timeline that Dr. Avgerinos showed us, has many steps that we have not even imagined after your connection.
Yes, indeed. And I think Dr. Avgerinos described it in full detail. I think the aid of the EIT Health and EKT program was very, very valuable, in particularly to identify the exact clinical need, and in a few words, to make the product like really reality based. That was the earlier stage that we're in during last summer, and where we were meet and when we joined the SymbIASIS program. And at the moment, the biggest challenge is to meet like the best balance between all the costs that we face and the prototyping process. We are now at tier 6 maturity stage, and at end of June, we want to make an in vitro trial with Dr. Avgerinos and another 5 vascular surgeons. And then the next step is to follow up with the animal trials. So yes, lots of steps, and the connection between our team and physician is really crucial.
So and it's very rare as well. That's why it's sort of.
It was a new program. We, let's say, showed some examples from Israel, from Netherlands, but there's nothing exactly like that. And we want to ask as well, because you said about, you talk about the costs, and I mean, Mr. Boutaris, I guess you're responsible for you know, achieving the funding that is required for such a long process and difficult process. You can consider also contacting EKT. We're national contact points for Horizon Europe, and we can help you also with the European Innovation Council Accelerator. We had a success story like Fosprin that you showed before. We showed you earlier, but this is also a low success rate program, especially for Greek competence. I mean, what is the plan for the future for this, and how costly is such a process? Maybe with not the exact numbers, but you can give us an idea, you know, inform the other startups on what they're going to face if they want to try to get in this prototyping process.
Look, I mean, it always takes longer and costs more. Our original idea was to convert this patent by a Greek vascular surgeon into a product, but not us. We would license the technology. Now, in the medtech sector, it doesn't really work. So you have to actually make a product, certify it, and through that process, you have to get the real reality check from the clinic, the clinicians. And that's tough because clinicians don't have the time. I mean, one of the things we would love to see is in the limited space that hospitals have, like Israel, you could have a geographical proximity, which would help. Because even if you get like 3 minutes or 5 minutes from a doctor and get his attention, it's invaluable. Now, we approached this quite professionally. We compensated all the physicians that participated in webinars we did, in the clinical trials, in all the in vitro tests and everything. So I think that's important to have professionalism, but also kind of realism. Now we raised our second pre-seed round. We're going to go hopefully in September for a seed round. It's in the 7-digit region. Like we're doing things, I think, because we don't realize the danger and the risk in a sense. But we have to, we're pioneers in a way. We have to bolster the medtech innovation in Greece because we have a lot of talent, but not enough ventures, I would say. You know, there may be 10, 20 ventures when they could be 100.
Well, I think you're pioneers in this, in the sector, and how rapidly we are hoping that you develop your prototype. We'll see.
And we had to reach out. I mean, we didn't find all the resources here. I mean, we have engineers in Romania, and we're building the prototype, just to give you a sense, in Tunisia. You have to go out. All the materials are sourced from Germany, US, Japan, but we have to showcase the intelligence that is homegrown, you know, that somehow we put this together.
I was telling Beata, manager here, how complex this process is, and if we had the appropriate funding as ourselves, we could build other programs like to help you in the steps beyond. There are programs also, even from EIT Health that help you approach new markets and have easier software landings and connect with the other factories there. We have such connection and acceleration support programs that they do not provide a lot of funding, but provide other kind of support. We also, at EKT, we are members of the Enterprise Europe Network, the biggest globally network that connects companies from different countries. And you can also request for the raw materials. You can request for other technological partners through our platform. Well, I wish that you'll win even more awards and you'll go to market as soon as possible. But what is the estimate with the clinical trials, Danai and Halis, and then you can add whatever you like on the discussion. And also questions are welcome as well.
The first step, yes, is to realize the in vivo animal studies in September. And so, yeah, we take it step by step, but of course we have like an overview of the plan. So hopefully by the end of next year, we will complete the first clinical trials.
Thank you really much. And well, we had all the questions that we wanted to ask answered, the difficulties to collaborate with the university clinics and the private clinics and the hospitals and the benefits. I see here that we have in our attendees Mr. Kostas Karamanis from the Smart Health Hub, and it will be interesting to see what Kostas we are offering to all the traditional sector health innovators or the digital health innovators.
Hi, great job, George. Thank you very much. I'm working for the Smart Health European Digital Innovation Hub, which is a complementary body to what SymbIASIS is doing. So we address for both the hospitals and the companies. For the hospitals, we offer free services for incorporating digital solutions and achieving in a degree their digital transformation. I saw on the chat a potential request from Koryaleni Benakio that we could see together if there is no startup from SymbIASIS that could provide a satisfactory solution. Then we could work together in order to see the need, again, as SymbIASIS is doing, and trying to provide technical advisory in order to search the solution out in the market. Also, George is a member of the Enterprise Europe Network and could further search for this ideal solution through this large European network. We also help startups and other companies in their desire to develop a new product, a new service, with again with our technical expertise. Our innovation hub is employing nine organizations from academia and research that could guide the companies in order to develop their product or service, again with technical advisory and the provision of infrastructure. For example, a company may need high performance computing or artificial intelligence or something more elementary like specifications, regulations, or interoperability needs that they should comply with. So that is in short our offering, and we are looking forward to collaborate with George and EIT Health in order to serve hospitals and companies in their digital trip.
Thank you, Kostas. And, you'll be the expert to do the test before invest if the company is focusing on deep tech digital technologies, if they're in need of AI, hypercomputing, let's say, infrastructure, if they can access, let's say, your research organizations and competence centers facilities, will be excellent. Of course, we will have to see what the new, let's say, startups will bring into SymbIASIS 2023. I guess you'll be working with some of them. I will be working with some of them as well. We're collaborating with the Smart Health European Digital Innovation Hub, and we're also collaborating with the Health Digital Innovation Hub based in Larissa and Choice as well. So we can all provide support to the health innovators community. We'll collaborate also with the Hellenic Digital Health Cluster, and I think there are many opportunities for all of us, but what was missing was the deep tech support that the European Digital Innovation Hub like Smart Health and
yes, we have also 4 flagship technologies in which we can provide to access to companies in order to test before invest and develop their products. I don't want to take a lot of your time, but we are open to present more about our activities in a more dedicated presentation.
Thank you, Kostas. And now, before finishing, I just received from our communication and design department a nice, let's say, banner with all our ambassadors from the hospitals and the clinics. You see how many are supporting our program, and I just downloaded it right now, so I don't have it in the presentation mode. I think it's going to be interesting. You can see all these exceptional scientists, professionals, directors, and doctors are supporting SymbIASIS and are there for you, your startups, to use them. And you can still register if you haven't done that already to the program SymbIASIS by sending me an email, and I will send you the registration form. I would like to thank you all for being here today on this morning health talk. Until the next one, and till the next networking session of SymbIASIS, where we will connect again and let our startups pitch for a second year to hospitals and new hospitals. I want to thank you and wish you to have a nice rest of the day. And whatever you need, you don't be afraid or hesitate to contact us, contact the hospitals also that we have shared with you, and we will share with you in the future. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank our communication department, Natasha and Yanis, for making this happen, and all that I might be forgetting. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you, Beata.
Goodbye.